bread, next to is sausage. Okay. We've already determined our demand functions, our Marshall and demand functions. Okay. We derived them and we got them here for x1 and x2. So the next part of the question is saying we have to show that these functions decrease with price and increase with income. Okay, that these increase with price and decrease with price and increase with income. So here, in the first example that I showed, I illustrated it with numbers. Here, I'll just show you the relationships here so that you know what to say. If you look at this expression here, x2 equals I over 2p x2. Okay. So if you hold the income constant, meaning the income doesn't change, you hold the income constant, what you're going to see is there is a negative relationship between x2 and px2, which is, remember, the law of demand collision. Remember, there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. That's what's basically saying here. So x2 increases, px2 increases. The price of x2 was a sausage. Yes, x2. The price of sausage increases. The quantity demanded or the amount bought of sausage will reduce. Okay. And if the price of sausages goes down, what's going to happen to the quantity of sausages? They are going to increase. Okay. So what you can say in the exam, where you don't need to show any calculations, when income is held constant, there is a negative relationship between x2 and the price and px2. Okay, if px2 increases, x2 decreases, and vice versa. Thus, when price increases while holding income constant, x2 decreases. x2 or demand function decreases. Are we okay with this, colleagues, or do you still need me to show it with numbers? Are we okay with this?
Yes, it's okay with that.
Then price constant, meaning the price doesn't change for the good. What happens is there is a positive relationship between x2 and I. Meaning if income increases, you buy more of x2. And if income drops, you buy less of x2. Okay? When price is held constant, there is a positive relationship between x2 and income. Thus, if income increases, x2 increases. Therefore, the demand function increases with income. Okay, colleagues? Remember, these functions here, they're just telling us how much of x2 you can buy with the income that you have and the price. Excuse me. Okay. How much of x2 you can buy with the income and the price of the good. x2 and x1. That's basically part B of the question. Any questions? We'll move to the next part. Derive an expression showing the maximum utility that the consumer derives from the consumption of these two goods. Okay, so this expression is called the indirect utility function. Okay, indirect utility function. Okay, indirect utility function gives you the maximum utility you get when you consume these goods, or the maximum satisfaction you get when you consume these goods. Okay. So the indirect utility function, we need, well, remember these expressions of x1 and x2, we are bringing them back to our utility function here. Remember, u equals the square root x1 x2. X1, remember it's I over, remember we're just using these that we got here, x1 and x2. These are the ones that are good. Putting them back into the utility function. Okay, these are the ones where so x1 is I over 2px1, I over 2px1 multiplied by x2 I over 2px2. I times I, you get I squared. At the bottom here, 2px1 times 2px2, you get 4px1 px2. This is the expression here. But we can simplify this further. Okay, we can simplify this further. Okay, this is how you can simplify it. Okay, if you remember, according to the laws of surds, the square root of a over the square root of b is the same as the square root of a over b. So this is what we're doing here. We're moving from here to this. Okay, so in our expression, we can write square root of I squared over square root of 4px1 px2. Yes, is that a question? The square root of I squared is I. Here, the square root of 4 is 2. So you have 2 square root px1 px2. Okay. So this is our indirect utility function, which is telling us the maximum satisfaction we can get. Any questions? So yes, we've got the indirect utility function. And I've said, given the price of bread, x1 is 25 kwacha, price of sausage, x2 is 100 kwacha, and the consumer's income is 2,000. Find the value of the consumer's maximum utility. So x1 25, x2 100.
Just before you were kissing me. No,
This is fucking serious.
So we've been told I equals 2,000. Would you kindly mute your mic? Over 2 the square root of px1 is 25, px2 is 100. So we have 2,000 over 2 times the square root of 2,500 square root of 2,500 should be 50 if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the square root of 2,500 is 50. So we get 2,000 here over 2 times 50. We're going to get 2,000. 2 times 50, that is 100. Remove the 2 zeros there. The maximum satisfaction is 20 utils. Okay? 20 utils. That's the maximum satisfaction you can get when you consume bread and sausages.